If I had to rank the top 10 most pretentious debates of all time, I could almost guarantee that more than half of them would be debates regarding the subject of music. If people have an opinion on anything, they have an opinion on music. With the rise of critical music reviewers such as Anthony Fantano and hip-hop Twitter accounts, there's been a significant rise in people viewing music through a narrow and objective lens. The inherent problem with this is that it goes against pretty much everything that art is supposed to be. No number or arbitrary rules can truly express something so intrinsic to the soul of human culture, such as music. Regardless of this notion, people continue to throw out arbitrary rules and concepts of what music is and is not. Among these absurd rules is the idea of real and fake music that people tend to throw around. There's a lot of things that people like to call fake music, and one of the most popular targets of this label is video game music. This opinion that is held by far too many people is asinine for a variety of reasons, but I think Pink Eye said it best.
Oh, we want real music! We want real music! We want Joji music! Bro, I didn't even know real and fake music existed. I mean, I think it's like your fault for putting that shit into categories. Like, music is music. If you don't think this is real music, that's your fucking problem.
I've heard this argument about video game music from a handful of friends and people on the internet. Although I do not necessarily understand the rationale of this argument, I do want to attempt to deconstruct why people may view video game music under this cloudy lens. Writing off the artistic value of video game soundtracks feels like it's in the same vein as people who write off video game music as an artistic medium because it's different compared to the likes of cinema and literature. By evaluating what real music and fake music is, and by taking a look at the differences between video game music and traditional music, perhaps we can dismantle the devaluing of video game music as a form of creative expression. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Morg. Video game music is real music, and I'm here to talk about it. In today's day and age, with the rise of streaming services and other platforms to consume media, it has become easier than ever to digest a variety of different art forms. Being able to have a wide variety of movies and songs available to you with no additional cost aside from your initial subscription makes it extremely easy to take the value of artistic mediums for granted. We consume so much that it's difficult to truly sit down, process, and understand the value of what it is we're consuming. We now live in a time where we can easily experience all the music the world has to offer, instantaneously, from pretty much anywhere, which is something that no other generation in history has ever had before. The value that music has lost because of this over the years affects the careers and livelihoods of traditional recording artists, and this is extremely self-evident if you look at Spotify's artist cuts per stream. And one could also argue that this devaluation of their art extends to video game music as well. The aforementioned critics like Anthony Fantano and Twitter threads debating music make it very clear that there's only so much room for certain kinds of music in the discussion. Since the common person can now easily access music and put their opinion on the internet, lots of opinionated groups and toxic fan bases have formed, and it's quite obvious that a lot of instrumental music, video game music no less, has no place in the discussion. One has to ask why we view music from games differently. Is it due to the context in which it exists? Does the devaluing of modern art have anything to do with it? And how does the way we treat artists today negatively affect the matter? All music, regardless of who made it or why it was made, exists with some kind of context behind it. Music by the likes of Pink Eye exists under the context that it's a joke, while other pieces such as No Surprises by Radiohead exist to express complex feelings such as deep-rooted depression. With that in mind, how does context apply to music heard in games? Video game music acts much like a film score in that it is intended to complement what is being portrayed to the audience, but it's also quite different in that it also has to accomplish a lot of specific things to properly fit within the context in which it exists. In the case of tracks that have to be in the background of certain levels or scenes, the songs have to be catchy, not get annoying after a long time, and they also have to be able to loop back into themselves. If we're going by the traditional example of video game music, then songs like the 1-1 theme from Super Mario Bros. Fits this quite well. The problem is that it's not quite that simple. Video games are so different from other mediums because they are interactive. This actually makes music even more powerful in games because of this. The interactivity of games allows developers to utilize music as a tool to create experiences that simply couldn't exist anywhere else. No other piece of media can replicate the ladder scene from Metal Gear Solid 3, or the comfort that comes from hearing the Firelink Shrine song slowly fade in when playing Dark Souls, or even some of the awesome moments in Death Stranding when Kojima flexes his taste in music while you're casually playing the game. The interactivity of games allows developers to contextualize music in some of the most ingenious ways, which simply isn't possible with any other art form out there. At the same time though, there's also fairly traditional pieces that exist in games that could easily exist by themselves without ever having been in a game. You can't tell me that the Mario Galaxy soundtrack isn't real music just because it was in Mario Galaxy, because I know for a goddamn fact that if Mozart made the exact same songs hundreds of years ago, they'd be heavily lauded and praised as classical landmarks. In this sense, context is both a blessing and a curse for songs in video games. Although it can make the music into this crazy interactive experience that you'll always remember, many disregard it simply because it's from a game. If people took the time to actually listen to and realize what was there, they'd realize that music from games has the capacity to be absolutely brilliant and match or even go above and beyond that of what we see from traditional recording artists today. As we previously established, all music exists under a particular context in which it was made. The question we now have to ask is what context constitutes real music and what context constitutes fake music? I believe it's fairly obvious that for the sake of this discussion, video games would fall under the fake category of music. And now, the next question we have to ask is what separates video game music from other music that we see in the industry today? Well, as Pink Guy said,
"Bro, I didn't even know real and fake music existed."
The concept of real and fake music is inherently stupid. Whether something is a joke, is serious, is from a video game, or is any other piece of music you can imagine, it's all real music. It just serves a different purpose and acts within a different context. Instrumental hip-hop producers like J Dilla and Nujabes have been receiving their highly due praise in recent years, and I don't think there's a whole lot separating them from the music we hear in games. Music doesn't need to be good music to be music. It doesn't even need to be serious music to be music. When we begin to put such asinine and restrictive rules on art, we end up missing what art is truly about. Art is a medium that expresses a wide variety of different emotions and varies from culture to culture, and serves to reflect the inner thoughts and lives of those who create it. Trying to rationalize something that will never be rational is a pointless pursuit, and it's better to just accept art for what it is as opposed to what you want it to be. Calling video game music fake music is a massive disrespect to the super talented composers, producers, conductors, and instrumentalists behind what we hear in some of our favorite games. Artists today are already disrespected enough as is. The industry isn't a particularly nice place, musicians get paid like total dog shit on streaming services, and fans can be all too belligerent with their ridiculous and downright destructive opinions. Art isn't about comparing things or looking for differences, but instead, it is about finding the similarities between everything, and that's what makes it beautiful. Art is something that is very much subjective. Therefore, there's no such thing as real or fake art. All of it is simply art. Although I spoke on a wide variety of different topics, the point I'm trying to make is actually quite simple. In recent years, art has lost a lot of its value in modern culture, so it has become subject to people disrespecting a lot of artists and the art they make. Video game soundtracks are some of the most imaginative, dynamic, brilliant, and ingenious bodies of work ever made. Composers such as Koji Kondo stand among some of my favorite composers like Eric Satie and Claude Debussy because the same level of musical genius can be seen within the Ocarina of Time soundtrack as with what we see from those composers, just in a different context than what we see classical music in. In the end, art is art. There's no logical explanation or reasoning that can be made to devalue something as an artistic piece. Art is the soul of humanity. Artistic expression is human expression. And that's what's so great about it.
Still missing piece, scattering so incomplete. We be that once incredible soldier from underground. See how easy they all fall down. Digging through the core to see the light. Let's get out of here, babe. That's the way to survive. Y'all on top of the head.